Don't sign the transfer tomorrow. Check who the secondary beneficiary is. That's what she said to me. A woman I'd never met before, at a charity gala where I was supposed to be celebrating the most meaningful decision of my retirement. Amanda Chen. She handed me her business card like we were discussing investment portfolios, but her eyes told a different story. They were sharp, calculating, and filled with something that looked a lot like fear. I should probably start from the beginning. My name is Marcus Holloway, and I'm 62 years old. For 35 years, I was a cardiovascular surgeon at Mount Sinai in Miami. I performed over 3,000 open-heart surgeries, saved countless lives, and built a reputation that put me in the top 5% of my field. I retired 3 years ago with more money than I knew what to do with, and absolutely no one to share it with. My wife, Caroline, died of pancreatic cancer 7 years ago. We'd been married for 31 years. She was the light of my life, the reason I came home every night, no matter how brutal the surgery schedule got. When she died, something inside me died too, but I still had David, our son, our only child. David was everything Caroline and I had hoped for. Smart, kind, ambitious, in all the right ways. He became an environmental engineer, married a woman named Rachel 3 years ago, and seemed genuinely happy. Then, 6 months ago, he died in a car accident on I-95, single-vehicle collision. They said he fell asleep at the wheel. I didn't believe it. David never fell asleep driving. He was meticulous about rest, about safety. But the police investigation concluded it was an accident, and I was too destroyed by grief to push back. Rachel was devastated, or so it seemed. She cried at the funeral, held my hand during the service, promised we'd get through this together. She was the only family I had left. After David died, I realized something. I was sitting on $12 million in investments, a paid-off penthouse in Brickell, and no heirs, no purpose. The money felt like a burden, a reminder of all the life I'd accumulated with no one to pass it to. That's when I decided to do something meaningful with it. Caroline had always talked about starting a cancer research foundation. She'd say it during her treatment, half joking but also serious. If I don't make it, Marcus, promise me you'll do something to help other people fight this. I'd promised. But after she died, I was too consumed with work and grief to follow through. 7 years later, it felt like the right time. I reached out to Rachel about 6 weeks ago. She'd studied nonprofit management before meeting David, and after his death, she'd thrown herself into charity work. She seemed like the perfect person to help me set this up. We met for coffee at a place in Coral Gables, and I told her my idea. I want to donate $10 million to establish the Caroline Holloway Foundation for Pancreatic Cancer Research, I said. I want it to fund clinical trials, support patients who can't afford treatment, maybe even sponsor research positions at major universities. Rachel's eyes lit up. Not in a greedy way, I thought at the time, but in genuine excitement. Marcus, that's beautiful. Caroline would be so proud. I need help setting it up properly, I continued. The legal structure, the board, the mission statement. I know you've been doing work in this space. I'd be honored, she said, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. Let me handle everything. I have connections with lawyers who specialize in nonprofit law, accountants who can structure it for maximum tax efficiency. This is exactly the kind of work I've wanted to do since David passed. It would mean the world to me to do this in Caroline's memory. I trusted her completely. Why wouldn't I? She was my daughter-in-law, the woman my son had loved, the last connection I had to him. Over the next 6 weeks, Rachel worked tirelessly, or so she said. She'd send me updates every few days, forward me draft documents, schedule calls with supposed lawyers and accountants. Everything seemed legitimate. She'd set up the foundation, gotten 501c3 approval, established a board of directors that included a few names I vaguely recognized from Miami's philanthropic circles. The plan was to officially announce the foundation at the Seaside Medical Charity Gala, a black tie event held at the Fontainebleau Hotel. It was one of the biggest charity events in South Florida, attended by doctors, researchers, wealthy donors, and medical industry executives. Rachel had arranged for me to make a speech, announcing the $10 million donation, and the following morning, I'd signed the transfer papers at my lawyer's office. The gala was last Saturday night. I wore my best tuxedo, the one Caroline had bought me for our 25th anniversary. I felt good for the first time in months. Purposeful, like I was finally honoring my promise to her. Rachel looked stunning in a black evening gown. She'd invited several board members of the foundation, introduced me to donors she said were interested in supporting our work. Everything felt right. The ballroom was elegant, the champagne was flowing, and I was surrounded by people who understood the importance of medical research. That's when Amanda Chen approached me. I was standing near the bar, taking a break from the small talk, when she appeared at my elbow. She was Asian American, probably in her early 40s, wearing a sharp navy suit that stood out among all the formal gowns and tuxedos. Professional, composed, but with an intensity that immediately set her apart from the usual gala crowd. "Dr. Holloway," she said, extending her hand. "Amanda Chen. I'm a financial advisor specializing in high net worth estate planning." I shook her hand, assuming she was networking. Gala crashers looking for wealthy clients weren't uncommon at these events. "Nice to meet you, Miss Chen. I'm actually here for a specific purpose tonight, not really looking for new financial services." "I understand," she said, lowering her voice slightly. "I'm aware of the foundation announcement. Congratulations on such a generous commitment to cancer research." "Thank you," I smiled politely, starting to turn away. "Dr. Holloway." Her tone stopped me. It wasn't aggressive, but it carried weight. "I need to speak with you privately. It's urgent, and it concerns your donation." Something in her expression made me hesitate. "I don't understand. Do we know each other?" "No, but I know your daughter-in-law very well." My stomach tightened. "Excuse me?" Amanda glanced around the ballroom, then nodded toward the balcony doors. 5 minutes. Please. What I have to tell you could save your life." I should have walked away. Should have dismissed her as some conspiracy theorist or competitor trying to sabotage Rachel's work. But something in her eyes held me. That look of fear I'd noticed earlier. It was real, and it was directed at me. 5 minutes, I agreed. We stepped out onto the balcony. The November air was warm, the Miami skyline glittering across the bay. Inside, I could hear the orchestra playing something classical. Out here, it was quiet enough for secrets. Amanda wasted no time. "Don't sign the transfer tomorrow? Check who the secondary beneficiary is." I stared at her. "What are you talking about?" "Your donation. The legal documents Rachel had prepared. There's a clause buried in Section 12, subsection D. It states that if you die within 24 months of making the donation, the remaining funds in the foundation revert to the secondary beneficiary, not the foundation's board of directors." "That's a standard clause," I said, though I wasn't entirely sure. "It protects the donation in case something happens to me early on." "The secondary beneficiary is Rachel Holloway," Amanda said flatly. "Your daughter-in-law. If you die within 2 years, she inherits $10 million. I felt the champagne turn sour in my stomach. "That's impossible. Rachel wouldn't." "Rachel Moreno, before she married your son," Amanda interrupted. "Born in Phoenix, Arizona. Married twice before David. Both husbands died under suspicious circumstances. Both left her substantial life insurance payouts." The world tilted slightly. I gripped the balcony railing. "Who the hell are you?" Amanda reached into her suit jacket and pulled out a manila folder. She opened it, showing me photographs, legal documents, newspaper clippings. "I'm a private investigator, Dr. Holloway. I was hired 6 months ago by Lisa Holloway, your daughter's sister." "David didn't have a sister," I interrupted. "Half-sister?" Amanda corrected. "From your late wife's first marriage, Lisa Chen. She was 10 when Caroline remarried you. She and David reconnected as adults, but kept it quiet because of some family drama with her biological father. She lives in Seattle now." I remembered Caroline mentioning a daughter from her first marriage, but we'd never met. Caroline said the relationship was complicated, that her ex-husband had poisoned Lisa against her. I'd never pushed it. "Lisa reached out to me after David's death," Amanda continued. "She didn't believe it was an accident. She asked me to investigate Rachel. What I found." She paused, jaw tightening. "Dr. Holloway, Your son didn't fall asleep at the wheel. I believe Rachel drugged him before he left for work that morning. I found evidence that she'd been researching sedatives, that she'd filled a prescription for Ambien 3 weeks before his death, using a fake name. David had sleeping medication in his system that wasn't prescribed to him. I couldn't breathe. The Miami heat suddenly felt suffocating. The police said, the police saw a single vehicle accident with a driver who had sedatives in his system. They assumed he took sleeping pills and drove. But David never used sleeping pills. You know that, don't you? I did. David was adamant about never taking medication he didn't need. He barely even took Tylenol for headaches. Amanda pulled out more documents. Rachel's first husband, James Pritchard, died of a heart attack at age 34. No prior cardiac issues. She inherited his life insurance, $200,000. Her second husband, Michael Torres, died in a boating accident. She inherited his estate, approximately $400,000. Both deaths were ruled accidental or natural. But the pattern is clear. Why would she kill David? My voice sounded hollow. He loved her. They were happy. Because David found out, Amanda said quietly. 2 months before his death, David hired a forensic accountant to review some financial irregularities in a nonprofit Rachel was managing. He'd gotten suspicious about missing funds. The accountant found evidence of embezzlement. David confronted Rachel about it the night before he died. There's a text message from him to Lisa. Found out something bad about R. Need to talk tomorrow. The balcony spun. I sat down heavily on a wrought iron chair. This can't be real. I've been investigating Rachel for 6 months, Amanda said, kneeling beside me. I've tracked her movements, reviewed her finances, interviewed people from her past. She's a predator, Dr. Holloway. She targets wealthy men, marries them, gains their trust, and then kills them for the inheritance. David was supposed to be another mark, but he figured her out too soon, so she killed him before he could expose her. Why didn't you go to the police? I did. They said the evidence is circumstantial. Both prior husbands' deaths were officially ruled accidental. Without physical evidence of foul play, in David's case, they won't reopen the investigation. I need proof that she's attempting another murder. That's where you come in. I looked up at her, horror dawning. You think she's planning to kill me? I know she is, Amanda said. The secondary beneficiary clause is the smoking gun. If you sign that transfer tomorrow and then die within 2 years, Rachel walks away with $10 million. She's already establishing the framework. I've been monitoring her communications. She's been researching medications that mimic natural heart problems. Given your age and your medical history, I don't have a medical history, I said. I'm healthy. You had a minor arrhythmia event 2 years ago, Amanda said. Atrial fibrillation, treated and resolved. But it's in your medical records. If you died of sudden cardiac arrest, especially with your history and your age, no one would question it. They'd chalk it up to stress, genetics, bad luck. I felt sick, actually physically sick. I stood up and walked to the edge of the balcony, staring out at the ocean. Inside, I could see Rachel through the windows, laughing with some donors, playing the perfect grieving widow turned charitable foundation director. What do you want me to do? I asked. Don't sign tomorrow, Amanda said. Tell Rachel you need more time to review the documents. Meanwhile, I'll work with the FBI to build a case against her. I've already been in contact with Agent Morrison from the White Collar Crime Division. He's interested, but he needs evidence of active criminal intent. If we can catch her attempting to harm you, we can prove pattern of behavior and get all 3 cases reopened. You want me to be bait. I want you to be alive, Amanda said. If you sign that transfer tomorrow, I give you 6 months before you have a convenient accident. Rachel is patient, but she's also calculating. She won't wait long. I turned to face her. Why should I believe you? You show up out of nowhere with this wild story. Because I'm Lisa's sister-in-law, Amanda interrupted. My brother married Lisa 5 years ago. We're family, Dr. Holloway. Lisa has been trying to reach you for months, but she didn't want to upset you while you were grieving. She asked me to investigate quietly, and what I found led me here. We're not trying to hurt you. We're trying to save you and get justice for David. I studied her face. She didn't look like a con artist. She looked like someone who'd seen something terrible and was trying desperately to stop it from happening again. I need to think, I said. You have until 9 a.m. tomorrow, Amanda said. That's when you're supposed to sign at your lawyer's office. If you sign, you put yourself in her crosshairs. If you don't sign, we have a chance to catch her. She handed me the folder. Everything I've found is in here. Police reports, financial records, witness statements. Look through it tonight, then decide. Amanda walked back inside, leaving me alone on the balcony with the folder and the wreckage of my world. I didn't sleep that night. I drove home to my penthouse, locked the door, and spent hours going through Amanda's evidence. It was damning. Photos of Rachel with her previous husbands, smiling the same way she'd smiled at David, life insurance policies, death certificates, financial records showing unusual cash withdrawals in the weeks before each death, and the text message from David to Lisa. Found out something bad about R. Need to talk tomorrow. He never got the chance. He died the next morning. By sunrise, I'd made my decision. I called my lawyer at 7 a.m. Gerald, I need to postpone the signing, I said. Marcus, what's wrong? We're set for 9. I need more time to review the beneficiary clauses. Just 48 hours. Reschedule for Monday morning. There was a pause. Is everything all right? I just need to be certain about the structure. Humor me. Of course. I'll let Rachel know. No, I said quickly. I'll tell her myself. I don't want her to worry. I called Rachel at 8. She answered cheerfully, clearly excited about the signing. Marcus, good morning. Are you ready for our big day? Rachel, I need to push the signing to Monday. Silence. Then, what? Why? I was reviewing the documents last night, and I want my accountant to look over the tax implications. Just want to make sure we're optimizing everything correctly. Marcus, we've been over this. The structure is solid, my lawyers assured. I'm sure they did, I interrupted. But this is $10 million. I want my own team to review it. It's just 48 hours. I could hear the tension in her voice when she answered. Of course, I understand. It's a big decision. Thank you for understanding. I'll see you Monday morning. I hung up and immediately called Amanda Chen. It's done. I postponed. Good, she said. Now we need to move fast. Can you meet me at a coffee shop in Coconut Grove? There's someone I need you to talk to. An hour later, I was sitting in a corner booth at a quiet cafe, across from Amanda and a man who introduced himself as FBI agent David Morrison. He was in his 40s, dressed casually in khakis and a button-down, but his badge was real. Dr. Holloway, he said, Miss Chen has briefed me on the situation. I want to be clear that we're still in the preliminary investigation phase. But what she's uncovered is concerning enough that we're taking it seriously. Can you arrest her? I asked. Not yet. We don't have enough for an arrest warrant, but we can conduct surveillance, monitor her communications, and gather evidence. What we need from you is cooperation. Continue acting normally. Act like you're still planning to sign on Monday. We'll have agents watching you at all times for your protection. What if she tries something before Monday? Then we'll catch her in the act, Morrison said. But I think she'll wait. If her pattern holds, she'll want the money transferred first. That way, if something happens to you shortly after, she's already positioned as the grieving widow managing her father-in-law's charitable legacy. This feels insane, I said. I know, Amanda said gently. But you're not alone. We're going to stop her. The next 48 hours were the longest of my life. I went about my normal routine, had lunch with Rachel on Sunday where she chatted about foundation plans while I smiled and nodded, all the while knowing FBI agents were watching from nearby tables. Rachel seemed tense but tried to hide it. She kept bringing up the signing, asking if I was satisfied with my accountant's review, making sure I was still committed. Of course, I told her. This is important to me. Caroline would want this. Monday morning arrived. I dressed in a suit, drove to Gerald's office in downtown Miami, and walked into the conference room where Rachel was already waiting. She looked elegant in a white blouse and gray skirt, professional and compassionate. The perfect foundation director. Gerald laid out the documents, page after page of legal language, board structures, distribution schedules, and there it was. buried in Section 12, the secondary beneficiary clause. I picked up the pen. Rachel watched me, her expression encouraging. Gerald stood ready to witness. Before I sign, I said slowly, I want to understand something. This secondary beneficiary clause. Rachel, why are you listed? She blinked, caught off guard. What do you mean? That's standard. We discussed this. If something happens to you before the foundation is fully established, someone needs to manage the remaining assets. I'm the foundation director. But it says the funds revert to you personally, I interrupted. Not to the foundation's board of directors. Not to a successor organization. To you, Rachel Holloway, personally. Her smile didn't waver, but something cold flickered in her eyes. Marcus, you're overthinking this. It's just legal language to ensure continuity. My son David, I said quietly. Did you kill him? The room went silent. Gerald looked shocked. Rachel's face went perfectly blank. What did you just say? Her voice was ice. Did you drug him the morning he died? Did you put Ambien in his coffee so he'd crash on the highway? Marcus, that's insane. James Pritchard, I continued, pulling out Amanda's folder. Your first husband, dead at 34. Heart attack. No prior cardiac issues. Then Michael Torres, boating accident. Both left you insurance money. Both died conveniently. Rachel stood up, her chair scraping loudly. I don't have to listen to this. No, you don't, said a voice from the doorway. Agent Morrison walked in, flanked by 2 other agents. But you do have to answer some questions down at the field office. Rachel Moreno Holloway, we have a warrant to seize your financial records and electronic devices related to the Caroline Holloway Foundation and the deaths of James Pritchard, Michael Torres, and David Holloway. Rachel's composure shattered. You can't. I haven't done anything wrong. Then you won't mind answering our questions, Morrison said calmly. We're not arresting you at this time, but we strongly encourage your cooperation. Rachel looked at me, and for a moment, I saw the mask drop completely. The woman standing there wasn't the grieving widow, the compassionate daughter-in-law, the dedicated philanthropist. She was calculating, furious, and scared. You'll regret this, she said quietly. I already regret trusting you, I replied. They escorted her out. Gerald sat down heavily, looking pale. Marcus, what the hell just happened? I almost signed my own death warrant, I said. The investigation took 3 months. The FBI dug into Rachel's past with the full force of federal resources. What they found was even worse than Amanda had initially uncovered. Rachel Moreno had been running cons since her early 20s. Small frauds at first, then graduating to romance scams, and finally to murder. They found evidence linking her to 4 suspicious deaths, not just 3. A boyfriend in college who'd left her his car and savings, James Pritchard, Michael Torres, and David. In David's case, they found the smoking gun. Security footage from a pharmacy showing Rachel picking up a prescription under a fake name 3 weeks before David died. Forensic analysis of David's coffee cup, which he'd left in his car the morning of the accident, showing traces of crushed Ambien tablets. Text messages between Rachel and a man she'd been seeing on the side, discussing being patient and waiting for the right moment. The foundation paperwork was another goldmine. She'd forged several board members' signatures, fabricated credentials for supposed donors, and created a shell structure that would have funneled all $10 million directly to her control. The secondary beneficiary clause was just insurance. If I died before she could slowly drain the foundation, she'd get everything immediately. They even found evidence she'd been researching digitalis poisoning, a plant-derived toxin that mimics cardiac arrest. She'd been planning to poison me slowly, making it look like my old arrhythmia had come back and caused a fatal heart attack. Rachel was arrested in February. She hired expensive lawyers and tried to fight it, but the evidence was overwhelming. In March, she accepted a plea deal rather than face trial. 12 years for David's murder, 8 years for fraud and attempted fraud against me. Additional charges pending for James and Michael's deaths, which were being reinvestigated by authorities in Arizona and California. I attended the sentencing hearing. Rachel looked small and defeated in her orange jumpsuit, nothing like the poised woman I'd known. When the judge asked if she had anything to say, she looked directly at me. "I'm sorry about David," she said. And I think, for just a moment, she actually meant it. He was a good man, better than I deserved. I got greedy. I always get greedy. The judge sentenced her, and she was led away. I never saw her again. Afterward, in the courthouse lobby, I finally met Lisa Chen. She was 38, with Caroline's eyes and her own mother's dark hair. We hugged like strangers who shared a tragedy, which is exactly what we were. "Thank you," I said, "for not giving up on David, for saving my life." "He was my brother," she said simply. I couldn't let her get away with it. We've stayed in touch. Lisa and I have dinner once a month via video call, her in Seattle and me in Miami. She tells me stories about David when they were growing up, memories Caroline had shared with her. We're building the relationship we should have had all along. Amanda Chen became a friend too. She refused payment for her investigation, saying it was personal, but I insisted on funding her next few cases. She's good at what she does, and there are other people out there who need someone to dig for the truth. As for the foundation, I eventually did establish it, but through a different structure with independent oversight and no personal beneficiaries. The Caroline Holloway Foundation funded its first clinical trial last month. Real research, real impact, the way Caroline would have wanted. I'm 62 years old. I came terrifyingly close to being Rachel's fourth victim, to dying alone in my penthouse while she walked away with my life savings and my son's memory. Some nights, I still wake up thinking about how close I came to signing those papers. But I didn't. A stranger warned me, and I listened. An investigator believed the truth mattered more than convenience. An FBI agent did his job, and justice, however imperfect, was served. I go to David's grave every Sunday. I tell him about the foundation, about Lisa, about the life I'm rebuilding. I tell him I'm sorry I didn't see who Rachel really was, that I didn't protect him the way a father should. But I also tell him that his death meant something, that Lisa's love for him exposed a killer, that his half-sister, who he'd barely known, fought harder for justice than anyone could have expected. I'm learning to forgive myself. It's slow, painful work. I trusted the wrong person, and it cost my son his life. But I'm still here. I can still honor Caroline's memory, still do good with the resources I have, still build connections with the family I didn't know I had. Last week, I was at a coffee shop in Coral Gables, the same one where Rachel and I had first discussed the foundation. A young woman approached me hesitantly. "Excuse me," she said. "Are you Dr. Marcus Holloway?" I tensed, old instincts kicking in. "Yes. Can I help you?" "I'm a medical student at UM," she said. "I'm doing my oncology rotation, and I wanted to thank you. The Holloway Foundation just funded a research position that's studying pancreatic cancer immunotherapy. It's groundbreaking work. Because of you, we're going to save lives." She shook my hand and left. I sat there for a long time, coffee growing cold, thinking about Caroline, about David, about Rachel sitting in a federal prison, and about all the people she'd hurt, but also about Amanda Chen showing up on that balcony, about Lisa refusing to let her brother's death be written off as an accident, about FBI agents doing their jobs, about medical students studying cancer treatments funded by the woman I'd loved and lost. The water sparkles in the Miami sunshine these days. I take morning walks along the beach, something I never had time for during my surgery years. I'm learning to live again, slowly, carefully, with my eyes wide open. Sometimes I still hear Amanda's voice in my head. "Don't sign the transfer tomorrow." 3 words that saved my life. 3 words that exposed a killer. 3 words that gave me the chance to honor my promises, build new relationships, and turn my grief into something meaningful. I'm 62 years old, and I'm still here, still fighting, still trying to make something good come from all the loss. Rachel couldn't take that away from me, no matter how carefully she'd planned. And Caroline, wherever she is, I think she'd be proud of that.